All right. Let's see. I was wrestling with this for a little bit, but I was kind of thinking today's video was going to be about conditioning, like how we've been conditioned to believe certain things and what we're capable of. Because I believe we're capable of doing more than we've ever been taught. It's just that sometimes we get let the outside circumstances of our life decide whether we think we can or we can't. Because I was also thinking too that like you have to if you want to get somewhere else, you have to really look at where you're at, because all the choices in your life have led you up to this moment. And if you that those choices have created the outside world that you live in. And you can also change your mind, change your life, and change your choices and create a different reality too if you really, really want to. But you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with where you're at. You have to start to look at the reasons why you want to do something, and really, really, really look at it. And like write it down, journal it, and kind of just never give up and keep moving and keep stacking it on there. And if you do, like, get knocked down or just have a few days or weeks where you're just not maybe inspired to do anything, that's okay too, because sometimes you need to rest and when you're changing and going through things, sometimes negative emotion comes up, negative thoughts, negative beliefs, and the old self tries to keep pulling you back to where you were because you've been in that space for so long. I'm 49 years old. I've been in, that's a long time to have created patterns of where I was. And since I'm trying to do something different, trying to become something more, and you have to have the will and drive to do that. If you want to do that, you got to make a decision to do it. Because if you don't, well, there's nothing wrong if you don't want to. There's nothing wrong with what anybody wants to do, within reason. But it's like, and don't feel bad for wanting more. There's nothing wrong with wanting more either, because we really are limitless if in our minds, if we really, really learn how to get rid of the conditioning and get rid of the roadblocks. Because again, they only teach us so much in high school. They only teach us so much in college. And a lot of the stuff, when you start to read quantum physics and quantum mechanics and learning how to change your mind through NLP and taking responsibility for the choices you've made in your life to get here, like I talked about before, I made some really silly decisions when I was in college. And then I had to take responsibility for all those decisions I made that led me to where I was. And then I was able to go back and finish. So again, you have to take responsibility for where you are. There's nothing wrong with anything that happens in your life. It's just that if you learn from it, we all make mistakes every day. It just happens. We're human beings. We try to be better. We try to be more, but you might, and like I like to say, you might have perfect moments, but you're not perfect all the time. Maybe you get into those things where you just, get into a zone, and for that moment, in softball, there was times where in that moment I just kind of knew something good was coming, and then I let go of everything, didn't listen to the outside noise, and just focused on myself in this moment between me and the pitcher, and just kind of, had that perfect moment where I hit a grand slam, and from the moment I hit it, it was gone. But it was like in that moment, that's a perfect moment. But then, later in the game, you don't have those. In life, you don't have those. So it's hard to stay perfect the whole time. And then I don't think the goal is perfection. It's to have those perfect moments, to strive to be better, to strive to do something different, strive to be more. And if that's what you want to do, that's what I'm trying to help people realize, that we all have this ability inside of us. Sometimes it's just locked down by what society's told us we could do. Our peers have told us we could do. What we believed we think we could do. For years I didn't think I could get on here and do this. For years, I was deathly afraid of speaking in front of people. Everybody that's listened to me talk knows this, and that's okay because it led me here. But I never gave up, and that's the thing, is that we live in a society where they think youth is like everything, which it is. There's nothing wrong with being that either. But the longer you live, the more experience you get, the more growth you have, the more learning you do, and then you can maybe, pick up different habits, pick up different, uh, skills, or just want your life to go in a different direction. Sometimes I wish I would have thought of all this stuff earlier, but I guess I wasn't ready for it. And that's the thing, is that we're all on a journey of our own. And the problem is we sit there and we put labels on everything, and I'm not saying these are bad things. It's good to want to be a lawyer, or want to be a doctor, or want to be a fireman, want to have all these purposeful jobs. There's nothing wrong with all that. But if that's not what you're doing, there's nothing wrong with what you want to do. As long as it's you got to figure out what you like to do and do more of it. Figure out who you are, what drives you, what are your internal drives. Understand how your conditioning has caused you to feel stuck if you don't think this way yet. But we can all change the language. We can all change the things we say to ourselves, because the things we say to ourselves and the things we repeat over and over and over, that's what we create in our lives. Language, and I saw this somewhere. It's called spelling for a reason. You're putting a spell on yourself when you keep saying, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, oh, I don't think I can meditate, oh, I can't get on camera, I can't hit a base, all these things, I can't, I don't. Well, then, yeah, you're not going to take the necessary steps to do this. And I didn't either. So, when I was younger, I didn't think I could do this, I didn't think I could do that. But then slowly but surely, when I cracked the door open, but there was something inside of me that I always say, when I'm ready, I would do it. And that's the weird part about my life. I've always had these things in the back of my mind telling me not yet, or it was almost like a guiding spirit in a way, where I'd always say, well, when I'm ready, I'll take speech class. When I'm ready, I'll start making videos. When I'm ready, I'll start meditating. And all these ready times came in my life, but they didn't all come at once. And they didn't all come at the times I wanted it to. Sometimes you got to go through the hard times and persevere, learn perseverance, resilience, all these things to help us get through tough times are there to shape and mold us. There's that thing saying, what happens with coal, I think it's coal, that even you put pressure on it, it turns into a diamond. So sometimes that pressure of going through those hard times, having those ideas and conditionings that we don't think we can do certain things, having those negative emotions that probably have kept us from moving forward because maybe we didn't believe in ourselves, or maybe we were negatively abused emotionally when we were younger, or had some bad experiences that knocked us on our asses. We've all had those. And sometimes we don't even remember that they're there. They're in the unconscious mind, and we're still acting from them. And that's why I like to do the meditations, the visualizations, and all that stuff, because I feel like that stirs up the pot in the unconscious mind and helps these things bubble to the surface, so that you can be like, oh yeah, I remember that happening. And then you like I said that one time when I got called out in the lunch line, and it affected me negatively emotionally for a while, and I totally had forgotten about it for years, and then it just came up, and then I reframed it in my mind. We can always reframe the things that has happened to us and bring a positive from it. That substitute teacher was probably having a bad day, and I was just a trigger point for her in that moment because I was being too loud. It wasn't my fault. Everybody else was being loud too. I just happened to be right there for her. And again, by changing that narrative, it changes the experience in my life from back then. And we can do that with any experience we've had in our lives. You got to understand, we all act out of emotions at times. Sometimes we're not perfect. Sometimes we fly off the handle. The goal is not to fly off the handle too bad, but we all get triggered. We all have these emotions stored in our bodies. And that's what some of this stuff does, is get these emotions out. Because again, if they're stuck in your body, they're messing with your nervous system, they're messing with your energy, they're messing with your mind, they're messing with what you think you can do. There's so much stuff there. But then and most people say, no, I'm just gonna go out and do stuff, keep doing stuff to distract us from looking inside and seeing what's there. And just always have something to do. Like when I remember years ago when there was a blackout and nobody knew what to do, and it was like, oh my God, what do we do? We don't. No one can do anything. The whole, most of the state of Michigan was out of power, all the way over to the East Coast because of that transformer in Pennsylvania or wherever it was. I don't know if I'm exactly right, but people were like, what do we do? There's nothing to do, and that's what it is, because you don't want to look inside. You don't want to look at, but the only thing you're gonna do is the only way you're going to get rid of these things is to look inside, and there's nothing wrong with it, man. It's okay to feel pain. It's okay to feel weak. It's okay to feel all these feelings. But somewhere along the lines, we've been conditioned to believe that it's not. Everything is what it is. And sometimes looking at these things and getting these negative emotions out, and yeah, you might have to relive that negative experience for a moment, but then you let it go. And then you feel better after you do it, like after the fact. And then even if you don't want to speak about it or do anything, write it down. That's what journaling is. Write your emotions down. Write what's going on in your head. Write what's going down in your life. Write it out. Just write it out. Sometimes by the mere fact of writing stuff out, that it leaves space for the universe to show you what you need to do. Ask the universe. Ask God. What is it that I need to learn? What is it do I need to do in my life? How can I get rid of these negative emotions, negative experiences, negative choices I've made? And how to create new habits to, turn that around, to create a new belief system, to realize that we are all powerful, that we are all capable of doing more. But sometimes the process is a little bumpy, and there's nothing wrong with that either. So again, we always think is good and bad. Like, we don't want bad. Well, sometimes you got to go through the bad to get to the good. Sometimes you got to release the bad to get to the good. And that's the thing, is we're like the dichotomy of everything, light and dark, left and right, east and west, good and bad. We got to know all these things. We have to know the one to understand what the other is. So that means that as a human being, we're here to experience all those things. It's just that we put labels on all of it. And then if you're a bad person, you're like they say, a good person can do bad things, a bad person can do good things. We all have the power to choose. We all have the power to do something different. We just have to first believe it, because if you don't believe it, you're not going to get anywhere. And I'll say it again, the Book of Five Rings, written by the greatest samurai in Japanese history, said if you open yourself up to an idea, the universe will guide you to the results. But if you put that "I can't" up, then you'll cut off the flow of the river. And when you finally say, well, maybe, then all of a sudden there's a crack in the dam. And then you're like, well, maybe it's possible. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, once you introduce that idea of, well, maybe I can do it, even if you're not totally sure you can, just that maybe will put a crack in it. And then all of a sudden you'll see something like, oh, maybe this is it. And then maybe it's, well, that sounds pretty good. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, there is something to this. And then all of a sudden, boom, the dam breaks, and here comes all the information. You see a video, you watch a video, somebody teaches you something, you see a book, you hear something. But you got to pay attention to these things, and sometimes it's hard to do, but it'll guide you. If you ask, there is no empty words in ask and you shall receive. It's just that sometimes we ask for the wrong things. I never ask for certain things. I always ask just to show me what I need to learn here. Show me what I'm missing. Guide me to the answers I need to figure out the things that I want to know, or go to the places I want to go, or be the person I want to be. So we all have this. I don't know. I can't tell you what all your experiences will be, because everybody's different, and everybody should have their own personal relationship with the divine. But I'll tell you, when you start to ask some questions and ask, show me the way, show me what I need to learn, show me what I need to do, start to have that belief of maybe I can do more than I thought I could. Maybe there are some things I'm interested in doing still, no matter how old I am, no matter how young I am. There's always time, but there's always ways to change. There's always ways to do different things. You just got to be willing to take the risks, put the work in, keep stacking, keep doing it. realize that if you are having a fallback, or you get knocked down, or you are feeling a little negative, that's okay. Sometimes you're just releasing stuff. It's part of the process. I remember Dr. Simon at the Chopra Center said, when you start meditating, he goes, you're going to feel off some days, but just make it through those days. Realize that it's not always going to be that way. Sometimes you're releasing negative emotions you've had for years, and that's okay. You just got to let it go. And I remember I went through it the first year and a half I meditated. It was ups and downs. But I'll tell you what, some days I was just down, but then other days I was just like, all these like epiphanies would come, and all these ideas would, like, new ideas would come. So it was always ebb and flow, back and forth. But you just got to remember to be resilient, to keep moving forward, keep practicing, keep doing things, keep learning, keep striving. Just do all these things, or just be better, or have the belief that you are. Because I guess I was taught that if you use the language like, say, striving, you'll always be striving to be better, and you'll never arrive at it. Just like, Yoda in Star Wars says, do or do not, there is no try. Because when you keep saying I'm trying, you're always in a state of trying. You never actually are doing what you're trying to do. So I had to catch myself there, because that's the thing. That's the little stuff. That's a good example of what I was just talking about. It's these little language things we say to ourselves that actually create our reality. So you got to become more aware of the things that you're saying and all the stuff that's going on, and look where you're at. So that way you can maybe start to change that little by little. It takes time. So if it's just that awareness in the moment of that, just like I did just there. It's these little things that will add up to big things in the end, if you keep working at it every day and keep persisting at it, and just keep working and moving forward and never give up. So like and subscribe to the video. I just want to keep this stuff going. I want to reach more people. I want to do this. This information, I feel like we're at that age where we just need to, keep learning, and realize that we are capable of doing more, no matter what age we are, or where we're at, or where we've been, or where we think we can go. There's always something more. So that's my message for today. Have a good day.